Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can wrap your Tesla Model Y and transform it from this to this. Here is the new Model Y, Juniper, facelift. So let's look at the trouble areas or the difficult areas. Starting with the front bumper, I'm going to put an inlay right here. I mean, you probably could do this in one piece if you wrap down here and then fold it over, but an inlay is definitely safer. Then this part here, so obviously we need to cut and fold here, but this, it's not that big of a gap, and you'll see there's plastic here. I can zoom in, there's plastic there. So if we cut here, we should have enough to fold in. I don't think that'll be an issue, but I'll play around just to see. The other issue posed here is this light here. So if you look, it sticks out like that much. The bumper's all the way in there. So we have to be careful cutting that to make sure we have enough. And you can kind of see through the light, it's like translucent. So we really got to make sure we get good coverage here. Otherwise, it'll look pretty bad. Now, continuing with the lights on the bumper, again, you can kind of see under here. So we have to make sure we wrap really far. And then in there, you'll see the bumper goes all the way up in there. So if I'm just cutting along this line, I'm going to leave paint back there, and that's just not going to look good. So we're probably going to loosen the bumper just to pull it a bit to wrap that and get coverage there. I don't like wrapping bumpers off the car just because they move around too much. The side cameras here, they're pretty easy to remove. Just got to take off all of this trim here, which is just, as you see, a bunch of clips. It's really no big deal at all. And then just stick your hand behind here, the fender liner, and you can pop out the camera and disconnect it. And it's going to help you get some better coverage around the camera there. The final area that's going to be tricky is this spoiler. So typically with such a hard body line, I would say do this in two pieces. Do this piece first, then put your seam and then overlap there. But if you look at this really hard body line, fades out and becomes pretty much nothing here. So the seam would look great here, completely invisible. And then you'd come to here and you'd be like, why is there a line there? So I definitely recommend doing this in one piece, not two pieces. I think I'm going to have to get some help to do this because by yourself, just getting that stretch in this area and really pulling it to get that coverage, I think it'll be pretty difficult. I don't want any glue lines or sanding in the vinyl. So you might need two people to do this spoiler. Okay, so here it is, all finished, completely done, everything wrapped. Let's move along the side here. We got two-tone mirrors right here. Let's go along the side, that nice, really flat finish. So now I'm going to go into detail about how I did each panel, or at least the difficult ones, because the straightforward ones like the doors and the fenders don't really have to explain. Starting with the front bumper. Now, typically when you're doing bumpers, you measure out the longest bumper between the front and the rear, and typically, the rear one's usually longer. So let's say it's 10 feet, which would be 120 inches. You have a 10-foot rear bumper and like an 8-foot front bumper. I'm just making it up. You're going to use your 10-foot length, cut that into the roll, and then obviously you'll be longer for the front bumper, but you can split that 120-inch piece, that 10-foot piece, you can split that into 30 and 30. Now remember, the roll of vinyl is 60 inches tall. So if you cut it in half, 30 and 30, it's usually enough to do the front and rear bumper. Now, the bumper on this Tesla, the front and rear, is not like that. You have one regular front bumper here. As you can see, it goes all the way around. But the rear bumper on this new Model Y is split into this section right here, the tailgate or the trunk, and another similar section here. So you don't need that huge piece for the rear bumper. So what do you do with it to make sure you're using your material efficiently? This is what I did. Now I forget how long this bumper is. Let's just say it's 10 feet. So I cut 10 feet into the roll, and again, it's 60 inches tall. So I cut it in half at 30 like I normally would. So I have a 10-foot long piece of vinyl that's 30 inches wide that I use for the front bumper. Now I still have another piece of vinyl that's 10 feet long and 30 inches wide, which I would usually use for the rear bumper, but I don't need to in this case. So what did I do with it? I split it between this piece here that runs all along here and the same piece for the other side. So I had 30 inches, right? A piece that's 30 inches wide. I cut that in half again for 15 and 15, and I used one of them here and then one of them for the other side over there. Let's actually look at the front bumper now. Obviously, I put an inlay in here, and then to get that nice coverage all around the lights, you have to pop off the bumper at least partially after you wrap it. So I stretch the material all the way around, and before I start trimming, underneath this piece of trim here, there's a 10 millimeter bolt and then 2 Torx. And then all along the bottom, that plastic trim there, there's a bunch of bolts alternating between Torx and 10 millimeter bolts. So you have to undo all those. Then once I did that, I was able to pop off this side, which allowed me to tuck under the headlight and then do the fog light area. And then same with the other side. I kept it attached in the middle because it just helps it secure. If you're by yourself, you don't really have a way to secure it. But 2 people, obviously someone can hold it. So if you're by yourself, that's definitely how I would do it. Wrap the whole thing and then loosen the bumper on either end, and that'll help you cut around these difficult areas and get nice full coverage. The cameras, to get full coverage, as I already mentioned, they're very easy to pop out. Just take off this trim here, stick your hand behind the fender liner, and just one tab or one clip there, just pop it out and disconnect. Really easy. The spoiler piece, as I mentioned, that it should be done in one piece because if you come around to here, that seam won't look good because that body line just doesn't continue. So I did do it all in one piece, and I actually did it by myself. I didn't need help to do it. So because this is such a pronounced body line and it really drops off, the way I did it was to avoid having a massive glue line or discoloration, just kind of lightly tack it here, and then you can heat it up, pull this side, and then heat it up and pull this side. And then to get this area in here, which I don't know if you could tell, it's pretty recessed in here, like it goes in quite a bit. I just heat it up and then use the palm method, which I've never really done before, so I need to practice that still, but it came out super clean. The rest of the trunk is obviously very straightforward. I mean, there's nothing to it there, just a very flat panel. Overall, I'm really happy with how it came out. It looks really good, probably one of my better wraps, to be honest. And my first Tesla. So as far as cars go, yes, this car is much easier than other cars, especially the Lamborghini we just did, which is pretty much impossible. This is a nice change of pace, and I'm really happy with how it came out. So let's get some final shots and finish up the video.